Up ahead, Philippine shares enter bull market territory after surging past the 7,400 level yesterday. We'll talk about this development and more with the head of research at Unicapital Securities, Wendy Estacio Cruz. The Philippine Senate approves a resolution ratifying a free trade agreement with South Korea. The U.S. Commerce Department proposes a ban on the sale of smart vehicles using Chinese technology. Beijing, however, calls the move discriminatory. And U.S. denim giant Levi Strauss teases a potential collaboration with a top music icon. Find out who that is later on in the show. First, let's take a look at how markets in Asia are doing. They're poised to open higher with China's central bank in focus. A few minutes ago, the People's Bank of China announced several measures to boost the country's economy. They include a plan to cut the reserve requirement ratio of banks by 50 basis points. Futures for mainland China's CSI 300 are flat, while Japan's Nikkei 225 is up by more than 1%. Elsewhere, stocks in Australia are flat, while South Korea is up by 0.5%. Over in Wall Street, the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 closed at fresh record highs, building on a rally sparked by the U.S. Federal Reserve's easing cycle. The Dow Jones Industrial Average added 0.2%, while the S&P 500 gained 0.3%. Now, the tech-heavy Nasdaq rose by just 0.1%. Now, comments of U.S. policymakers were in the spotlight following the U.S. Central Bank's rate cut decision last week. 3 Fed policymakers said that the outsized reduction was meant to sustain what they see as an emerging and healthy balance in the economy. In Europe, shares closed higher as soft business activity data strengthened the case for the European Central Bank to embark on more rate cuts. The UK's FTSE 100 gained about 0.4%, while the German DAX rose by 0.7%. France's CAC 40 closed flat, dragged down by weakness in banking stocks. Now, at the currency exchange, the dollar index went up by a little over 0.1% to 100.92. On to commodities. Spot gold prices increased by 0.3% to $2,630 per ounce. And oil prices pulled back on growing supply concerns amid escalating tensions in the Middle East, with U.S. crude and Brent prices falling by close to 0.6% to over $70 per barrel. The Philippine Senate has approved a resolution to ratify a free trade agreement with South Korea. 21 senators vote in favor of eliminating Philippine tariffs on 97% of goods from South Korea, while Seoul will lift tariffs on about 95% of Philippine products. The deal is expected to boost exports of Philippine bananas and processed pineapples to South Korea. Now, signed last year, this free trade agreement aims to attract more foreign direct investments, but it still needs approval from the Korean National Assembly. Now, the Philippines may be one of the biggest beneficiaries of falling global oil prices in the Asia-Pacific. Now, ANZ research reports that a 10% drop in world oil prices could lower headline inflation by 0.2% this month. While this impact is smaller than Thailand's estimated 0.3% drop, it's still greater than the 0.1% decline seen in most Asian economies, including India, China, South Korea, and Singapore. The research firm expects lower oil prices to boost disinflation in Asia and improve the trade balance for net oil importers like the Philippines. This could support Asian currencies, with the Philippine peso projected to end the year at 55.80 against the U.S. dollar. Turning to a tense trade dispute, China has warned that the U.S. is warning the U.S. against what it calls discriminatory actions against its companies. This warning follows a proposal by the U.S. Commerce Department to ban key Chinese software and hardware in vehicles due to national security concerns. Beijing's foreign ministry is calling on America to respect market principles and to ensure a fair business environment for Chinese firms. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Basis Points will be right back.
This is is The Scorecard, where you score the latest news and in-depth views. I'm Anton Rojas, and this is tonight's roundup. On The Scorecard tonight, feel like you're somebody who has that desire. Tell us about your experience. Get ready for a thrilling clash, thrilling hostilities, and keep your eyes on the prize. Sports is our business, and business is our sport. This has been The Scorecard.
10 p.m. on BNC, the Billionario News Channel.
It has no authorization.
We hope and pray that it will not.
Thanks for having me here.
An orchestrated
By myself, basically.
We always say that.
It depends.
A well-concerted effort.
Perhaps I can reiterate. My greatest beefsteak. Iba pa na yun.
Simulan na natin ang agenda. Gumulong na ang plenary debate sa national budget para sa 2025. Mas malamig na aircon at mas malakas na wifi. Mga pangako ng SMC-led consortium sa operasyon at maintenance ng NAIA. Maghapon pa rin bang malakas ang ulan dyan sa Dagupan?
Bandang alas 2 ng hapon, bumuhos na nga ang malakas na ulan. Ito ay nagdulot ng pagbaha.
Sa bawat issue may anggulo at ang balita may agenda.
What is your biggest mistake?
My greatest beefsteak.
I wanted to do that before I aura.
Aura.
Yeah.
We shine a light on the trailblazers, the disruptors, the titans of industry.
I'm going to eat healthy. It's expensive. Guess what's more expensive? The hospital.
We're not just talking about success stories here. We're diving deep into their hearts and minds to see what drives them.
Ibalik mo ako.
Let's go.
Naiikot ako.
We
Hello
are
po.
live. We are
Industry Beat on BNC, the Billionario News Channel.
Welcome back to Basis Points Trading at the Philippine Stock Exchange. Opened a few minutes ago. Let's take a look at the initial figures. Now, after ending at 74.17 yesterday in bull market territory, we're seeing the market continue its rally. Share prices at the Philippine Stock Exchange are up by 0.3% to 74.42. The broader all shares index up by about as much as well, up by 0.4% to 39.72. All the sub indices are trading in the green, except for the services counter, which is down by 0.4%. Now, to help us make sense of the numbers and more, we have with us the head of research at Unicapital Securities, Wendy Estacio Cruz. Good morning, Wendy.
Morning, Mikey. Morning, everyone.
Okay, Wendy, it's an exciting time to be in the market right now. The PSE index entered bull market territory yesterday. What have you to say about this rally? Does it have the legs?
Yeah, actually, we believe this is sustainable given the easing monetary policies, and we're still expecting another cycle of rate cuts both here and in the U.S. By the latter part of the year. And of course, alongside the reduction in reserve requirement ratios of the banks here in the Philippines, so that should also help propel the index. Of course, we might see some healthy pullback over the next couple of days, probably, given some profit taking might happen as well. And as investors also digest this easing monetary policies. But overall, we see index trading above 7,000 levels at least. And of course, market may also look at the U.S. GDP growth in the second quarter for the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm. Going back to the factors supporting the market's bull rally, talk to us about how much more of the rate cuts are you expecting from the BSP? 2 more meetings by the end of the year. How much of a reduction in interest rates are you anticipating?
Yeah, for the BSP, we're expecting another 25 basis points, either on November or December meeting by the BSP. For the U.S. Fed, we're expecting another 50 basis points, which is also in line with the dot plot in the U.S. Fed.
Okay, so we've got the BSP's moves, we've got the cut in the reserve requirement ratio. That's seen to inject about 300 billion pesos in liquidity. On top of that, we've got the rate cuts from the BSP. You're anticipating another quarter percentage cut, through to the end of the year, plus the rate cuts in the U.S. Plus, we've got the strength of the peso on account of those moves. That's going to make the Philippines attractive to foreign investors. And this as inflation continues to cool. So the picture is looking really good for the Philippine Stock Exchange. Talk to us about your expectations. You know, there's going to be a lag for Q3 and Q4 earnings, but talk to us about your expectations for the remaining quarter and for 2025.
Yeah, for the remaining quarter, we're expecting, of course, better corporate earnings, but there, as you've mentioned, there's going to be a lag effect. So we might see in 4Q the impact of the easing monetary policies. And of course, right now, since the peso is also, or the Philippines is also one of the attractive indices in the Southeast Asia, we might see continuous capital inflows from into the Southeast Asian markets, such as the Philippines. Right now, the PSEI is still trading at a wide discount of 42% compared to its 10-year historical average PE. So we might see continuous inflows to the Philippines over the next couple of, I think, for the next quarter. As for the 2025, this actually sets the stage for double-digit earnings growth for 2025. Right now, we're seeing an average of 11% for 2024 EPS growth. And for next year, we might see higher than that, actually, given the easing monetary policy rates.
Let's just put that into perspective, Wendy. Let's talk about the valuations of the valuation of the PSEI relative to the PE ratio. How does it compare to other markets in the Southeast Asian region? I know that you said that we are one of the cheapest. Right now, how it looks like Indonesia is the cheapest, trading at a 41% discount. We're second to that at a 42% discount. Talk to us about how our index is doing relative to the other bourses in the region.
Actually, right now, the PSEI is the most undervalued next to Indonesia. Indonesia is trading at around 14.6 times PE, while the PSEI is at around 12 times PE. Both at a discount to its 10-year historical average of 41% and 42% respectively. And year-to-date, as you can see, 3 of the top 5 performing Asian equity indices are from the region, actually from the Southeast Asia, with Malaysia, Philippines, and Vietnam leading the pack. So we might see this continuing over the next quarter. And right now, as I've said, it's still undervalued.
Okay, so given all of these, the current market environment, how are you advising investors to position themselves?
Yeah, of course, as I've mentioned, we might look at the dip, or we might have to take an opportunity into the healthy pullback, and might look at the sectors such as the property and consumer sectors, and of course the power sector, especially those that are focused on the renewable energy, such as ASEN, for example. For the property sector in general have been trading at a wide discount to its net asset value. So might take an opportunity to look into these stocks such as Ayala Land, SM Prime. And then for consumer stocks, there are some names, for example, Jollibee is still appealing, followed by other names also in the consumer sector, given the easing inflationary pressures.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Wendy, for sharing your thoughts on the market with us this morning.
Thank you.
That was Wendy Estacio Cruz, the head of research at Unique Capital Securities. Now we're taking a quick breather. Basis Points will be right back.
At BNC, morning means business. The numbers and the stories that drive the economy and shape the world on Basis Points. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m. Cultivate a growth mindset and see where your finances is taking you on Follow the Money. Weekdays, 10:30 a.m. The stories behind successful micro, small, and medium enterprises on Pathways to Success. Weekdays, 11 a.m. Sit down with the trailblazers, the disruptors, and the titans of the industry on Industry Beacon. Weekdays, 11:30 a.m. Business as usual. Every morning. Only on BNC, the Billionario News Channel.
This is Pinky West, and it's a great opportunity.
Corina Sanchez. Pagsasamahin ng isang agenda. Mondays to Fridays, 6 p.m. Only on BNC, the Billionario News Channel.
Welcome back to Basis Points. For the first time, the Philippine Commission on Elections issues guidelines to combat the use of artificial intelligence, deepfakes, and online fake news in general. According to the COMELEC's digital campaign guidelines for the 2025 elections, using online platforms for misinformation, disinformation, and deepfakes, which includes digitally fabricated images, videos, or audio, may be considered an election offense. COMELEC Chair George Garcia clarifies that while they do not oppose the use of AI, it must be regulated. In other news, China hopes to expand cooperation with Sri Lanka through its Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI. Chinese President Xi Jinping made this statement in a congratulatory message to Sri Lanka's newly elected leader, Anura Dissanayaka. Xi emphasized his commitment to strengthening relations between the two countries. Sri Lanka is emerging from a years-long economic crisis, partly attributed to high-debt Chinese mega-projects under the BRI. Western critics have accused Beijing of using this initiative to induce unsustainable debt in developing nations, gaining diplomatic leverage, or even seizing their assets. Now, in Britain, Finance Minister Rachel Reeves promises that the UK will not return to austerity. Speaking at the Labour Party's annual conference, Reeves says that the government will not raise income tax, social security payments, VAT, or corporation tax. However, she cautions that there will be difficult decisions ahead to fix Britain's economy.
We are calling time on the ideas of the past, calling time on the days when government stood back, left crucial sectors to fend for themselves, and turned a blind eye to where things are made and who makes them. The era of trickle-down, trickle-out economics is over.
She also says that new industrial strategy for Britain will be released next month. One protester briefly interrupted her speech.
We are still selling arms to Israel. I thought we were voting for change, Rachel. Climate breakout is on our doorstep. We are still.
In other news, SpaceX CEO Elon Musk outlines his ambitious plan to send missions to Mars. The tech billionaire announced he intends to launch about 5 uncrewed Starship missions to the Red Planet within 2 years. If these land safely, crewed missions will follow in 4 years, barring any major risks. Musk expresses concerns that the Starship program is being held back, however, by excessive government bureaucracy. He says that while he has many concerns about a potential Kamala Harris administration, his biggest fear is that bureaucracy will increase under a democratic form of government, threatening the Mars program and, he says, humanity's future. Before we go, U.S. denim giant Levi Strauss teases a potential collaboration with music superstar Beyoncé. On Instagram, Levi's shared an image of a woman wearing a cowboy hat and riding a horse, apparently referencing Beyoncé's latest album. That album, entitled Cowboy Carter, was released earlier this year and includes a song called Levi's Jeans. This possible collaboration comes as Levi's second quarter earnings missed Wall Street's expectations, even with a recent resurgence of the denim trend. And that's it for Basis Points. I'm Maiki Oreta. We'll be back tomorrow for more news on the financial markets and more. Keep it here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel, always on top.
I'm
I'm attorney Karen Jimeno. Join me at the forefront as we zero in and discuss the details of some of the most pressing national issues that our country faces.
You mentioned there are 5 PNP officials who are also involved. Who are these 5 PNP officials?
What makes the PAOCC more effective in dealing with organized crime?
The political scene and government issues. These should be our concern, and we're taking you at the forefront.
FBI is investigating what it says is another attempt to kill Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump.
Active Mpox cases here in the country now at 15, but the health department tells the public, don't be alarmed.
Content creator engaged in a friendly sparring bout with Pacquiao. It was going well until Pacquiao punched him in his stomach and knocked him down.
Mai Rodriguez, Newsfeed at noon on BNC, the Billionario News Channel.
I'd like to say it's because a lot of the games coming out now tend to be more of the same. There's a different kind of innovation back when the PS2 was the most current console. Companies weren't afraid to think outside the box. They were willing to take risks, even if it meant that they weren't going to get a whole lot of sales.